What was your process to go back and reconcile with the 5th grade version of Lisa?
So I've dabbled in therapy. I always sometimes make excuses because I'm like, I'm so busy. When am I, to keep it up? So I've been trying to do journaling. That's been helpful. Just trying to find ways with my schedule to have that time for me to reflect and to kind of just feel those feelings and being more aware when it's happening has been helpful.
Yeah, that self-awareness journey of having that version of you, the non-judgmental version of you on your shoulder,
right,
to have a conversation with, and that's been helpful.
Yep.
When you think about who back in the day, is there a person that comes to mind, a specific individual, or was it maybe an experience, a specific experience? How specific can you get with that memory? This is out of all the things that I think we can talk about, there's a reason that you brought that up here.
Yeah.
And when there's a finite amount of time, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, bringing that up as an embossed negative memory in your past means a lot. Mm-hmm. And we have to reconcile with that completely before we can just say, oh yeah, I'm journaling, I'm moving on. No. Who was there? What was the situation? Like, how specific can you get for me on that experience, who that might have been, how that made you feel? And then have you had a conversation with that 5th grade version of yourself to say that, Lisa, you don't have to think people are picking on you anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that anymore. My mindset coach really helped me do that because I went through some crazy things as a kid, and so he helped me stop back and think of like the positive or negative memory in every single year, mm-hmm. and have like a reconciliation, like a deep conversation via letter. So answer the question, and then we'll see.
Yeah, there's definitely certain people that come to mind and experiences that come to mind. A lot of what I was kind of picked on back at that time, I was overweight. I had buck teeth. It was before I started coloring my hair. And then 7th, 8th grade came, I lost the weight, my braces came off, I started coloring my hair, and it was like now people were nicer to me. So I think that was a very defining moment for me because it kind of taught you how you look impacts how people treat you. And I've unpacked that. I know there's like exercises you can do on like, what would you say to your inner child when that's happening and, stuff like that. But I can't say that didn't teach me a lot about how the world can be based on kind of how you look.
Mm-hmm. And so now you have this kind of there's enough is enough moment with anxiety, and you begin your journey almost as if there's an awakening that happened to the higher version of yourself. Do you feel like today that's stopping you right here, right now? Is this, you're always going to have a relationship, mm-hmm. and it's always going to be part of you in the past. Is it a part of this version of you that sits here today, or is this a part of the past versions of you?
It's still here. I still have work to do. I think big part of what made me finally there's a multitude of reasons of why I went on this journey, but a huge part of it is, now I have daughters that I'm raising. And if I don't have a better image on my body issues, are they going to have the same issues that I have? And that, that really puts things into perspective. It's, I think as parents, even though we try not to, a lot of our stuff falls to them. And, I'd hate for my girls to grow up and then something that I did because I was still trying to figure out my stuff poured on to them.
And what tools are you using right now to make sure that that doesn't happen? You said journaling's one of them. How's that going?
It's going good. It's still finding the time, with 2 toddlers running around. But something that I've learned, I used to think when it came down to mental health, I thought it was like, oh, once I get my mental health fixed, I'm good. Like, I'm confident now. I don't have to work at this anymore. I've come to the conclusion it's very much like your physical health. If I have a PR in the gym or if I'm trying to build my muscle, let's say I hit that and I just stop, it's going to go right back down. I've learned that's the same thing with mental health. You have to continually prioritize it or you're going to find yourself back, taking steps backwards.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a continual prioritization of your body, your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your relational health, the health of your work environment, the health of your finances, the health of your purpose in life, and the relationship you have with that. I mean, there's a lot that we're responsible for. There's a lot of room for anxiety to creep in. And one thing that is important to me as I experience share here is that I have in those 8 kind of areas I just described that there's one ritual that is on a piece of paper for my body, right? We know that's can't because we can't. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Right. Number 2, mental health. If not, this is no specific order, but what are we doing every day, right? What are we actually doing? And if it's that important to you, right, then if it's whether or not your daughters grow up with a crippling anxiety or not, if that's what you place on it, right, then it couldn't be ignored because of a perceived absence of time.
Right.
Right. It would be at this place where it's, I do this every day because if I don't, here's the consequence. And oftentimes, I don't know if you've ever discussed this in your journey, but oftentimes the pain of something is we call it the push motivation. What's pushing you from behind? What's the pain that you don't want to feel?
Yep.
Right? Because that can be just as motivating as some enchanting version of the future that you want. So, what do you want? This is a question for you. What are you running away from? What do you refuse to have as an outcome in your life? Right? I think that has something to do with what you've already started explaining with your family. And what is that vision that's pulling you forward? What's the push motivation? What's the pull motivation?
Yeah. There's actually a quote I saw a couple weeks ago, and it said, it's like the magic that you're looking for is in the work that you're pushing off, or something like that. And that really resonated to me because we're all we all do this, but anytime something gets uncomfortable, we're gonna tuck it away and put it on, for another day. But it's really just pushing yourself forward and feeling that that discomfort to hopefully, get in a better spot.
Okay, so journaling, and the goal is to be more consistent with that.
Yep.
Right. The underlying way to do that is to draw a purpose toward it that requires you to refuse to miss it. Like I will not miss doing this because there's if I miss, then it's kind of an if-then statement. If I miss it, then this happens.
Yep.
And that's always been really helpful for me. But not to just think about, this is the difference, right? Like there's thinking, writing, feeling. So you can think that thought easy, and that can be right here, right now, and it can resonate, and then it can go out the other ear, right? So writing down is the next level of permanency. So you're writing it down, and I go to speak to groups, and I ask people like if they could show me what goals they have in their life and what's stopping them from getting there. And like out of 1,000 people, like 5 people will raise their hand, like less than 1%, will raise their hand and actually show me. Because the caveat is, if you raise your hand, I'm going to pull you up on stage, and you're going to have to read it to everybody. Yeah. So don't lie to me, right? And almost no one does it. So it's like a lot of people know it, but knowledge isn't power. It's only potential power. Napoleon Hill said that in Think and Grow Rich. And then you have to go down to the writing layer where I take my thoughts, I make them permanent on paper, but the last layer is where all the magic happens. And I'm sure you've ran into this before, where you take the thought, you write it down, but then you feel how the thought manifests an emotion if it's already done, if it's already here. And that's where meditation comes in for me. It's there's an outcome to it, to say, to try to be present as I possibly can, and to feel the emotion of gratitude for the thing in my life that is there that I haven't yet physically manifested, or the gratitude that I currently feel from being the person that is running away from the thing that I am trying to run from. Mm-hmm. So when you think of those three layers, have you ever thought about it like that? And are you driving your journaling like into your body, into your central nervous system, by not just thinking it, not just writing it, but by feeling it?
Yeah, I could definitely do better at it. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll journal, and I do these prompts that help with just like, what is it called? It's a type of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's just basically just almost like what you're talking about, like feeling things and just letting yourself feel it, experience it, and not tuck it away. Not to make excuses, but typically that's the first thing that's going to get knocked off my to-do list when you get busy. And I'm trying to be more strict on like, this has to happen. So that is one of my goals, is to like, this is important. Let's not push this off. Let's not wait, months from now and, I haven't done any progress.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now talk a little bit about those other areas that surround the mind and the body. How is your relationship today with yourself when it comes to the anxiety? What is, I'd be careful when I say those words, because a lot of times we'll often like diagnose ourselves with something called anxiety, when really it's just you're worrying about things in the future that 99.999999999% repeating will not happen.
Right.
And so if you're going to worry about it, like, it's kind of logical to just worry about it when it happens, rather than now. Easy to say that, mm-hmm. right? But then it's harder to unwind, this childhood anxiety that you've had. So what is that relationship, that connection with yourself like today?
Yeah, it's getting better. When I first started this journey, I becoming more mindful of when I'm being mean to myself internally. I was like, this is never going to get better. Like I feel like I'm attacking myself. Why is my brain just, I'll shut one thought down and here comes another one out of left field. And it felt like on overdrive. And I think for me, it was really that self-talk and stopping yourself when you start to have these negative thoughts. I had to check myself a month or so ago. I did a in-body weigh-in, and my muscle mass had not increased, to where I wanted it to be. And at first I had this thought, when I get to this, I'll finally feel comfortable with myself. And I kind of had to stop myself and, what are you talking about? This body created two human beings. This body allows you to get up every day and pick up your kids and go to work and work out. A lot of people don't have that. They don't have that. Mm-hmm. So like really being grateful with what you have has been helpful. I think a lot of times we focus on what we don't have. And that's when we get into these negative thoughts and feelings. But it's stopping yourself in that moment and kind of redirecting those thoughts has been helpful. It's still very hard because, your mind's a very powerful thing. But from what I'm learning, the more and more I can stop myself, redirect, and then kind of be grateful for what I do have I'm starting to see the positive benefits of that.
The yogis call what you're describing the great gap, right? From, we have this, you even bake it in, what I'm about to say, into the word itself, into the definition itself. We're programmed to say self-talk. And there's a sense of ownership with the word self. There's a sense of identification with the word I or self or me, as if those thoughts that you're thinking are owned by you and solely you. Your self-talk, you are talking to yourself. When in reality, the ego is making it seem like it's self-talk, but at the end of the day, this is universal talk. This is the collective unconscious of eons of human thought, right? That are baked inside of you. Like this, you are born with this propensity to have, and nobody knows why. You were born with this propensity to have thoughts come into your head from out of nowhere, and they're positive or negative, but making the assumption that it's our thoughts it will allow you to be, if it's your thoughts, then you're attached to it, you own it. But the whole goal for me in this, and why I enjoy yoga and meditating and more mindful present things, is because I can have thoughts and detach myself from them, right? You're completely disassociated from the thought that you're thinking, and you actually almost apply like a sense of an observation to it, like it's a movie coming in. Like, oh, look at that silly negative thought over there. Like that must have
Like,
been
that's cool.
Yeah, that's a cool thought over there. That's like, but you're not grabbing onto it, boom, and then taking it and like bringing it in and owning it. Because as soon as you believe it, you'll start to feel it, and as soon as you feel it, you own it. Right. And so this has been my process of yoga, is to. The yogis, like I said, call it the great gap. And all they're saying is, before you think the thoughts that are in your head are your thoughts, have a gap. Take a breath. Let there be a giant canyon that's between the thought that comes in and then the actual expression of that thought, whether it be verbally or emotionally. And for me, that has been one of the most helpful, just like pieces of knowledge. Not even knowledge in a sense, but it's just that way you can structure what's happening, the language that you can apply to like, oh, now I don't have to worry about this wrestle of like telling myself, talk nicer to yourself. Like, try to will your way into talking nicer to yourself. That's never going to happen. It's the underlying root cause of the problem, is that we're attaching ourselves to these thoughts that don't belong to us in the first place.